Welcome to a football show Thursday edition. Nick Suss of the Tennessee, and I'm Braden Gall, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. The John Harbaugh sweepstakes is over. What does it mean, Nick? What does it mean about the Tennessee Titans? We will discuss that and a variety of other things today on the show. Nick, good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. We're here. We have roughly the same number of coaches we did last week, and we're going to talk about a lot of similar stuff.
The 18 semifinalists, Nick, are down to 17.
Ooh, crazy.
The first domino has fallen. It's the starter's pistol on the hiring sequence, although it could take a pause now, actually. It could slow down until next week when some more coaches are available to be interviewed when they lose games this weekend. Lots of stuff to do today on the show. Okay, so first and foremost, I will ask you if later on in the show at the very end, can Miami upset Indiana in the national championship game? Then we'll talk through the 4 playoff games in the NFL that are happening right now. There's a huge piece of news in the NFL draft that does affect the Tennessee Titans at number 4, so we'll get to that as well. So just tons of stuff to do. We're going to play a little it's kind of like it's a draft, it's a game, it's Frankenstein's monster as a coaching candidate. We're going to look through every single major trait of a head coach for the NFL that you would want. That we know the Titans want. Some others value some of those traits more than others. And we'll kind of put some candidates at the top of each one of those lists. So, for example, who has the best leadership and culture skills? Who are the best 2 or 3 candidates for that trait? How about in-game management? How about play calling? How about like all these different things, right? So we'll do that a little bit later on. I want to get your guess on who the 5 or 6 finalists will be, who are next week getting their second interview, as a few more names are getting an interview, of course, right now. And then, obviously, what does John Harbaugh picking the Giants have to do or tell us about the Tennessee Titans, if anything at all?
Let me roll off the screen right quick. Do your ad.
Yeah. It's always the best time to do the ad is when the co-host disappears. Sinkers Beverages, everybody. For those of you doing damp or moist January, a word that I know everyone's wife really appreciates. Look, Sinkers Beverages still has the things that you need. Non-alcoholic beer is better than it's ever been before. It tastes more like beer than it ever has before. You can go get non-alcoholic beer at Sinkers Beverages. You can get mocktails, all the different things you need to make mocktails, whether it's the mixers or the things that taste like alcohol but aren't really alcohol. Also, the way my wife does it is she likes to make a mocktail with the THC beverage, which they also have at Sinkers Beverages in that THC corner. You can go get that stuff there as well. And, of course, all your regular liquor store needs as it pertains to bourbon and tequila and wine and champagne and beer. Award-winning liquor store in East Nashville. You can have that booze delivered. You don't even have to go to Sinkers. You can have it delivered directly to your house or to your party, or I guess to your office if you're feeling a little cheeky on a Thursday or a Friday. So make sure you check them out. Sinkers Beverages. Search Uber Eats for the company there. All right, I'm wearing my Mobile hat today. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe. Thumbs up, notifications turned on. We have a ton of stuff for the College Football National Championship game. Had a long conversation with Ryan McGee about storytelling around this season in the college football from ESPN, so check that out. Later on this evening, we're going to have a long-form sit-down with Bill Connolly, so we're going to dive into the metrics and the analytics of the matchup on Monday, trying to give you guys different perspectives on all of the games. And, of course, you can listen to our regular college football show, SEC Football Live, myself and Trey Wallace, every Wednesday. That's already up on the YouTube page and on the podcast apps as well. So everything you need about the College Football National Championship game, there you have it. And if you need Nick Suss's prediction, we'll do that later on in the show. All right, let's start with some of the comments here quickly. Retread Dax says, give me McDaniel, someone who knows how to run an offense and get talent. He's had great running backs, solid offensive lines to help them out, and everybody's gotten better, in my opinion. Morning fella says, Matt, good to see you. The guy who wasn't going to come here didn't come here. Come on down, Kevin Stefanski. Time to get started on the real hiring process, says Eddie. There you go. Christian says, McDaniel is the best clear option to me. Third in offensive EPA when Tua was healthy. And McDaniel with a new stadium. Give me the Titans offense for the first time ever. Okay. Let's start with Harbaugh here.
Okay.
And that is, like, I think the Titans, like, as has been reported, and we knew the plane was, arriving from Houston yesterday. Everything was gassed up and ready to go. They were going to meet Harbaugh at his house in Baltimore to do the in-person interview and to give them their full court press, as it were, as we like to say in this part of the job. The deal apparently was done in the middle of the day. They kept a lid on it by and large. Harbaugh then informs the Titans later on Wednesday evening. Then it starts to break late last night, about 10:30 Central Time, that he has agreed to this deal. Look, I think there's no real arguing the two rosters and which team is in a better situation. If you're a big market guy who likes the spotlight, there's no question which direction you want to go. If you happen to live the last 18 years in the Northeast, they'll question where you'd want to go. I don't think this actually says anything about the Tennessee Titans, and I think the Tennessee Titans did the best job they probably could have in all of this. Is that the way you see this playing out? Does it actually say anything about the Titans organization that John Harbaugh chose one of the 5 or 6 premier franchises in the history of the sport to coach instead of Nashville?
Yeah, premier franchise with, as I've said multiple times, a better roster and a better situation. And if the goal of a coach who is 62 years old, I don't know how much longer he plans on coaching, maybe it's 10 years, but he signed a 5-year contract. If the goal is to spend these 5 years winning, you want to go to the place that is immediately set up to win. And the Giants have the stronger roster. We can quibble about Jackson Dart. Obviously, there are a lot of strong feelings about whether or not Jackson Dart will be able to live up to the hype. But the supporting cast around them in New York is significantly stronger. And especially when Malik Neighbors is healthy, especially when Andrew Thomas is healthy, they have some legitimate star talent. That's not mentioning Brian Burns and Abdul Carter have the potential to be as good of a 1-2 punch as pass rushers in the entire NFL. What I make of it is the Giants had the financial ability to give Harbaugh what he wanted. They had the stronger roster. It is the significantly more prestigious job. None of this surprises me. This is not a slight on the Titans. He made the choice that was better suited for him to go win in 2026, 2027, and 2028, instead of maybe starting winning in 2027 and definitely being ready to win by 2028.
Yeah, no argument for me. How dare you make rational and logical points about this? That's not what we're here to do. We're here to yell and scream and to be outraged and drive engagement. Ed Henry says, Mara versus Strunk, giant thumb on the scale. I see what you did there, Ed. I don't know if you did it on purpose, but I see what you did there. Eddie says he's going to get run out of Nashville for his thoughts on McDaniel based on the comments on Twitter. People on Twitter do love Mike McDaniel. Great offensive mind, but as a head coach, I have questions on the soft power. We will get to his other element, the other elements of his candidacy as we discuss traits a little bit later on, but that is absolutely the case. Jess, morning. How are you? Jordan says, as people who we're also going to talk about comms as a skill. Brian Callahan, very good. Mike Vrabel, not as much. How much does it matter? Who's good at it? Jordan says, as people who transcribe and analyze quotes, is McDaniel your preferred hire? We got AI for that now. Jordan?
I don't. So true story. Every quote since I've moved to Nashville, I kept in one gigantic notes app on the desktop of my computer. And this week, my computer was moving so slow, I decided to archive all of my notes app quotes of transcription since moving to Nashville. What's your estimate of how many words were in that file that I archived over?
Since becoming the Titans beat reporter, so this is exclusively Titans quotes, and this is going to be your 4th season on the beat?
Yeah, I got here Halloween of 2022.
So midway? Okay.
For context,
37,000.
For context here, the last Harry Potter book is 198,000 words long. My transcription file was 450,000 words long.
Longer than a Harry Potter book?
Twice as long as the final Harry Potter book.
I think you could do more than archive some of those quotes, by the way. But I know you got to have them to go back to reference in case you need a story 6 years from now about that one thing that one guy said in the fall of 2023.
Correct.
I got you.
But we'll talk about comms. Good question, Jordan.
Yeah, that's right. Titans and Giants play in Super Bowl 63 at New Nissan Stadium. Cam Scatterby stuffed at the goal line. Titans and Mike McDaniel win. There you go. These Dolphins teams had a reputation as being kind of soft, mentally fragile. Questions on holding guys accountable. I don't know if Mike McDaniel is a head coach or just an OC. He's a great OC. We can absolutely say that. Jess 100% agrees with you. It's always risk reward. Retrodox says Vrabel got the most out of lesser players. McDaniel gets what he needs out of everyone. The franchise needs an offense for Ward. All right, lots of stuff to get here to. Here we go. Big 2033 says, your show is a guilty pleasure. You don't have to be guilty to listen to us. I come here for sports. Immediately hear about Harry Potter books. Chef's kiss. That is the job with Nick Suss.
Just picked a book that I thought most people would know how big it is. I didn't want to use the Brothers Karamazov as my reference point. I don't know if everybody's familiar with the length of that book.
I read Jeremy Scahill's Blackwater. It was 612 pages.
Yeah.
I think your notes would be as riveting as the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Okay, Ed, are you being sarcastic? Because if you're going after Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, this is not the show for you to do that. Okay, I am Lord of the Rings truther. This is the best fantasy book and series of all time.
I've tried to read it like 3 times, and I've never gotten past like the Tom Bombadil. It's really, really dense at the beginning.
The Hobbit, the book, which I realize is a separate book. The Hobbit was like life altering for me as a young child. Like as a middle schooler or whatever, reading The Hobbit like changed like how I viewed literature.
Yeah, no, I read it when I was like 5, and I really enjoyed it.
Maybe I was younger than middle school.
Yeah. Is it time to bring out the small board?
Uh-oh.
All right, everybody. Here are all of the candidates.
Oh, upside down. Okay, I like it.
Here are all of the candidates. If you're watching live, you can scroll Harbaugh off at the bottom.
Here's what I don't like about the small board, Nick, is that it blocks your voice to the microphone.
Okay. Well, I'll just peek around right here, just showing it up so people can see. These are the candidates we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about these people. This is the small board.
Yeah, it's totally different than the last time we did this. Robert Saleh is interviewing on Sunday. Mike McDaniel already finished. Mike McCarthy interviewing on Saturday. Jonathan Gannon, has been requested for Sunday as well. So there we go. Okay, let's start. Let's get into the qualifications here, or the traits.
Yeah.
And I'm going to start broad, and we'll kind of work our way down. Then we'll guess at who we think the finalists are going to be. Some of these are going to be based on what we think and what we want and what we like, and some of these are based on what we think the Titans are going to do. Most of it's that latter. All right. From a CEO standpoint, do you put culture and leadership and building a staff under CEO, or are those all separate traits in your opinion?
I think CEO is its own thing. You want to just start there, defining what we mean when we talk about CEO,
I agree. I think it's its own thing as well, and I think it's self-explanatory. You are the chief executive officer of the Tennessee Titans football team. You have to be able to manage the whole entire thing.
The job of the CEO is the job who makes sure that everything in the organization happens according to the goals and plans that are put out by the board. And if you want to say the CEO is the board, that's how some organizations work. If you want to say the coach plus Borgonzi plus Amy plus maybe Chad and Burke and some people is the board, that's the board. But the CEO has to be the one that gets everybody on the same page, that says, this is what we're doing, and I am ensuring it's done this way, which is a very different skill than choosing the culture.
Yeah.
So
true.
Who you got?
As the best CEO? I mean, he just got hired by the Giants. I would probably put the problem with Robert Saleh is we don't really know how good of a job he did at this with the Jets. I'm going to be very high on him from a culture and leadership standpoint. The problem with Kevin Stefanski in this category is that things went wrong. And somebody's already in the comments here, Matt, saying Stefanski interests me, says Matt, but I need to know what happened in Cleveland with Baker and his hesitation to mold his offense to Watson. I'm going to go of this list. And the coordinators we have no idea about. I would probably go Stefanski, McCarthy, maybe Nagy in that category. What do you got?
McCarthy comes to mind for me as the one who is the most equipped to know how to do it. I would say Nagy, if what you've read about him in this athletic rehabilitation profile is true, is a guy who has the traits to do it right the second time. And I would say if you are projecting based off of who they've been around, the best candidate as a first-time CEO would be Jesse Minter. Those would be the ones I come to. Minter coming from the John and Jim Harbaugh school of CEO work. Those are arguably the two best CEO coaches the NFL has seen in the last 20 years. Mike McDonald is doing it very well in Seattle, who is very similar in build to Minter. So if I am projecting purely based off of what I've seen across the league, Minter might end up on the list, but I think he is definitely behind the McCarthys and Stefanskis and Nagys of the world there.
Matt says, Braden, as a Packers fan, how would you feel if McCarthy got the job? I was extremely pleased when they fired him.
Well, we'll talk about
That's all I
McCarthy
gotta
when
say.
we get. There's about two categories away. I'll talk about McCarthy.
Because again, from a CEO standpoint, if you're just talking about having the skills to do it, I think McCarthy, any of these guys who have been head coaches have the skills to do it. I don't love the fact that of the three names, you picked one that's never done it, one that did it poorly but thinks he can do it better, and the guy who has, in my opinion, some of the worst leadership culture skills in the entire list. So I do not, if I'm a Titans fan, I would be very underwhelmed, uninspired, and disappointed if they hired Mike McCarthy. He also has the best win-loss record of anybody in the list. So some eventually you have to just point to the skins on the wall if you're Mike McCarthy. Why no Stefanski in this category?
I just don't necessarily know what happened there. Just kind of like we just talked about.
Yeah.
I think that Stefanski did a really good job of making more out of less, kind of like we talked about during the Vrabel era. I don't think those Browns teams were as supremely talented as some people like to say. They were the team with Myles Garrett, but after that, not a lot of overwhelming star power. And they tended to succeed. They tended to play pretty well until those last 2 years when they did not have a quarterback and the wheels fell off. I don't know. I think Stefanski is in the same camp as Arthur Smith and Vance Joseph and Robert Saleh and all of these coaches that have done it before, but I don't know if they've done it well enough for me to say that's a good CEO.
And Tomlin, I assume we're not really counting in this conversation, right?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, well, I think the unfortunate part with the retreads is that, much like we're going to talk with Saleh, is that there's shades of context involved in all of this. And I agree with you. I just don't know what happened with Stefanski. I do think that if the Browns look anything like a competent organization where they have at times under his leadership, he has to have been doing something correct. Getting to the playoffs, having one of their best stretches of actual win-loss record in the last 25 or 30 years for the Browns is a big deal, especially when he took over. They had 2 number 1 picks in a row. They were really, really bad. So they got much, much better quicker. And, he made the right picks in those drafts too, by the way. Like, they made the right picks with Garrett. That's going to another category. All right. Do you want to move on to staff here?
Sure. Yeah.
So I have like a reflux reaction to this conversation, which is that every coach knows every other coach, and that you don't have to have overlapped with the coach to get hired by said coach. It's not about, like, everyone's like, oh, who has he worked with? Well, he can bring this guy. And while there's absolute truth in that coaches always hire their friends, or mostly hire their friends, or are prone to hiring their friends. Also, Brian Callahan had Denard Wilson had never worked with each other. So I just think it can go either direction. I don't think you can look at any one thing and say this is the way it generally happens. So that's my reflux to this conversation.
I think the reason that I put staff on the list here, if you go back and refer to that Nagy article that I referenced earlier again, one of the things he talked about as one of his shortcomings in Chicago was he'd only ever worked for Andy Reid, and the network of people he knew well and he trusted was incredibly narrow because of that. And I think if you look at some of the coaches on here who are retreads, who are getting this second opportunity, look at somebody like Kevin Stefanski, who had only ever worked in Minnesota before he got to Cleveland. And look at some of the mistakes he made with his first offensive coordinator hires because his network was shallower. Look at Robert Saleh, who had worked in a lot of places, but had essentially followed the Shanahan, LaFleur, McVay path this entire time. And look at some of the mistakes he made at offensive coordinator hire, both with Mike LaFleur, a guy he knew very well who didn't pan out, and then hiring Nathaniel Hackett, a guy who he had not worked with, to try and pair with a quarterback, and that did not work out. I think that it's much easier to look at these things and compare that to, say, Mike McDaniel in Miami, who was working with Frank Smith, who I don't recall him ever being paired with before that, and was working with a defensive coordinator who is now getting head coaching interviews in Anthony Weaver. There are differences in how this works. And I do think that hiring a staff is a skill. And
For
so
sure.
while I'm not saying the skill here is knowing the right people, because you're right, everybody does to a degree know everybody, but the ability to identify and access the right staff and find the right people who are going to make your team better, not to dig on Stefanski because I was kind of negative at the top, bringing Jim Schwartz in proves the ability to hire good people who are going to stabilize something that's not working. I think that that is a skill that when you go through these coaches, we can see 12 of them are former head coaches. We can see which one of them's made good coordinator hires in the past and which ones did not make good coordinator hires in the past. And so Mike McCarthy, you can talk to his coordinator hiring practices. He had 3 former offensive coordinators become head coaches at various points in his career. Kellen Moore kind of inherited, can't really give him all the credit for that one, but not the most impressive coaching tree for a guy who has been in 18 years as an NFL head coach.
Yeah, won 170 games.
Yeah, versus I'm trying to think of like Jason Garrett. I know that nobody's talking about him because it's very strange that he's still on the list, but that's another one that did not have the greatest reputation of that sort of thing. I think that this is an important quality to talk about more than just who are your friends.
I think that's right. I think it's a great, but I think it also ties somewhat into your ability to be a CEO, your ability to evaluate talent, your ability to build culture and have a great leader. People want to work with great leaders. People want to be around good culture, and they respect people. By the way, let me correct something because I think somebody in the comments mentioned this. Stefanski got to Cleveland after the draft of I forgot. I thought he was there before the pandemic, but he got there. His first year was 2020. Also, probably a check mark in Stefanski's bucket, by the way, to turn the Browns around from being an awful roster during a pandemic. But just want to make sure we got that correct. All right, so who's at the top of the list here? Because I think they all can do it fine. I think it ties into other traits, if that makes sense. Like it's about evaluation and about relationships more than anything else.
Yeah, some of the guys I would throw out that I think would be near the top of the list, McDaniel, because as I said, I was impressed by the staffs he put together in Miami. I think Arthur Smith did a pretty solid job of this in Atlanta. I think Daboll is a guy who has a pretty solid track record of this, of knowing how to hire the right people. And we will see about Saleh, because that is the one that the network, the people he has coached with, the people he knows, is the right network. People who come from that Shanahan side tend to know good coaches. So we'll see about that.
So Nick's, I'm going to do this based on your rankings. CEO, McCarthy, Nagy, Minter. Staff, McDaniel, Daboll, Saleh. Is that correct?
Sure. That's what I said.
All right. Let's go to scheme.
This is a very easy one for me. I've got 3 names that are way at the top. Who do you got?
I'm going to do game plan as well. If that's what we're doing, scheme. Now, how much of the coordinators are you putting into this?
I'm talking purely reputation of the coach themselves. I am not talking about anything beyond that.
Stefanski, McDaniel, and maybe Shula, maybe Kubiak, but Kubiak's not technically on the list, I guess.
No.
So I don't know where you go.
McDaniel is on my list as well. Saleh is on my list.
Oh, okay.
Those 2022 and 2023 Jets defenses were incredible. Like those teams went 7-10, and people forget how good those defenses were because Zach Wilson wasn't that good. Those were incredible defenses. Yeah. And Braden, you can take off your headphones. You don't have to hear me talk about how good of a scheme coach Mike McCarthy is. But the fact remains,
he's boring.
The fact remains that in 2023, 2 years ago, the Cowboys were number 1 in the NFL in scoring offense and total offense. I'm not going back to 2014 for this. I'm not saying, in the prime of Aaron Rodgers, they had the best offense in the NFL 2 years ago. So we can talk about, has his offense gotten stale? It worked really well 2 years ago. I think that of the 18 seasons that Mike McCarthy has been a head coach in the NFL, 9 of them, his offenses have ranked in the top 5 in the NFL in scoring. I don't know where this reputation that he's a bad offensive coach comes from. I don't know where the reputation that Scott Dale comes from.
I don't think it's about that. I think it's the concepts. And again, this may be where football goes in like sort of cycles. And I remember us talking about the difference between the West Coast offense and the Air Coryell offense.
Yeah.
And those are really, really old concepts. Those are 50-year, half a century old concepts that still people are freshening up and bringing back at all times. Like the triple option is super popular now. Todd Monken is basically a triple option coach. So like, like Vanderbilt won 10 games last year, but basically this year by basically running a triple option. So there are old school concepts all the time being reworked and reinvented. I'm just not sure he ever changed his things. Now, to your point, if you know what works and it continues to work, I understand that. I am too. It's like Halfley. I'm almost too close to be objective because it was so stale and so uninspiring when it ended in Green Bay. And to watch LaFleur's offense do the things that they do now with so much creativity and timing in the right places and the right times and the diverse options, that the way they deploy them, the route concepts, like it's all very modernized. And
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Year 13 got stale. If somebody can come here and win for 12 years and then be bad in year 13, good deal.
Well, it's you know what it is? It's more a question of like, can old concepts, in this case, I'm going to call his concepts a little bit older. Can the old concepts be reinvented, reimagined, evolved just a bit the way Saban would do it, right, at Alabama during his tenure? And then McCarthy still has all that same skill and that same knowledge and that same wisdom, but like, is he capable of just tweaking it some? And this is what Packers fans are asking Matt LaFleur to do right now.
And I think that however much credit you want to give Kellen Moore and however much credit you want to give Brian Schottenheimer and the offensive coaches that McCarthy worked with in Dallas, those Dallas offenses were tweaked partially because they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, and you couldn't just say, hey, most talented quarterback ever, go do something. But they were slightly different. And I would be remiss if I also didn't put Vance Joseph on the list when we're talking about scheme coaches. I think I totally forgot to mention his name. That Denver scheme. Over the last 2 years, Denver's core front four, so Nick Bonito, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, and someone in the chat tell me who I'm missing.
The other pass rusher.
Jonathan Cooper.
Yeah,
those four have more sacks than the Tennessee Titans in the last 2 years. If you can get that kind of pressure from just your front four, you know how to scheme up a defense. So I'll put Vance Joseph as my fourth guy when we're talking about scheme. Yeah. As people mentioned, game planning is different. Do you want to talk about game planning?
Well, yeah, I want to kind of that's a good way to do this. Ed Henry says Packers fan perspective is jaded. Viewing from championship lens as opposed to ground level is different. I agree with you, Ed. I understand that McCarthy giving the Titans a high floor is of interest to the Titans. Like, I totally get why that would be different than, hey, it's not good enough for a team with Aaron Rodgers trying to win a championship, which is what they were at the time of the firing. So I hear what you're saying there. Jabari says, talk about game planning. That is a different kind of category for sure. So we'll get into that. What about Nagy, the whole Ward Mahomes light comparison? Don't you think it's why Nagy is getting interest, aside from the fact that he worked very, very closely with Mike Borgonzi? And we always value the devil you know over the devil you don't. What about Nagy from a game planning perspective? Because like Arthur Smith is in this category where they seem solid. They had really good years as coordinators, and it's just there's some questions about maybe how it was executed at a high level. Atlanta never had a quarterback.
Yeah, I think that in Nagy's case, I think that the game planning is something I'm really excited about if he's the Titans coach. I think that he is reputationally a very good whiteboard coach, a very good install coach. If you guys want to check this out, Tennessean.com. I wrote a story earlier this week where I interviewed some of Nagy's former quarterbacks. SEC fans will remember Aaron Murray and Tyler Bray. Both of them played for Matt Nagy when both Kansas City and Chicago at various points. One of the things that they told me was when Matt Nagy installs a play, he doesn't come in and say, here's the play, learn it. He comes in and says, here's the play. Here's where the play was formed. Here's who first ran the play. Here's why it worked for them. Here's how the concept has evolved over time. Here's how we're going to use it. Here's why I think it's going to work. It is very much a historic perspective of...
Ain't nobody got time for that.
I will show you this play. I will show you how Joe Montana made this play work. I will show you how John Elway made this play work. I will show you how Tom Brady made this play work. I will install the concept so you understand exactly how this concept works. And that will give you the confidence to run it as quickly and efficiently as possible. I like that. I don't know if everybody's going to love that, but I do like that big picture perspective on making sure that everybody on the offense understands exactly why a play is going to work instead of just saying this is going to work.
I think the why is very, very important. So if it's a really effective way of teaching the why, then I'm down with that. Stefanski Nash says Stefanski has the worst offense to fit Cam Ward. What's your reaction to that?
I don't think that that's true. I don't think that anybody's going to come in and say we're going to do stuff that is bad for Cam Ward because then they won't get the job.
I think Baker Mayfield and Cam Ward play very similar styles of quarterback. They have very similar skill sets.
I think that obviously Stefanski has had the time to evolve, but when he was starting out, it was very much a play action heavy offense. And we just spent 3-4 months complaining that the Titans weren't running enough play action for Cam Ward. So
all right, give me your top 3 for scheme and game plan.
Can I take 4 or does it have to be?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's McDaniel, it's McCarthy, it's Saleh, it's Vance Joseph.
Okay, McDaniel, McCarthy. All right, Saleh, Joseph. Okay, all right. Let's go to culture and leadership. Culture and leadership. I'm going to put these all into one bucket here. Who are your top candidates? I know who I like.
Go for it.
I mean, Robert Saleh feels like the best choice here.
Yeah,
the number 1 choice in this category. Again, I didn't write every single name of the 18 names down because I think a variety of them are just not real options. Garrett and Gannon, for example, are 2 that I just would not put on there. Spags is another one I don't want to put on there. Raheem Morris and Vance Joseph, I don't think are guys that we should be hopefully not talking too much about. I'm not sure who's number 2 on the list. Brian Flores isn't on the list.
Yeah,
but I would put Brian Flores up pretty high on that one. Nagy and Smith are fine. McDaniel, I've got questions about. I think Stefanski is probably better than people think at this, which I think is why I like him more as a CEO than maybe you do. Because I to your point, I don't know what happened in Cleveland, but I think that the fact that they got results in the context of the situation is really impressive to me. So tell me what you think about culture and leadership. Where you at?
I'd probably agree that Saleh is the guy that you would think should be at the top of this list. Beyond that, it's going to be such a complicated conversation about Mike McDaniel. And I think we kind of just have to rip off the Band-Aid and talk about the, let's call it age divide on how people feel about Mike McDaniel. I think there is if you are the type of person who would use the phrase capri pants in your first 10 sentences of talking about, or first 10 seconds of talking about Mike McDaniel, you're probably not going to buy into the culture he sells. If you are somebody who does not care whether or not his pants border on capri, maybe you might buy into the culture he sells.
Do you think capri pants on men go over well in a deep red state in the South?
I don't think they will. As somebody who currently has his pants rolled up because it's hot in my office, I don't care.
He's got a nice shoe game, though. He's got good shoe game. Shoe game goes over well with the young folks and the athletes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so. I think that there was a reputation in Miami that the players seemed to like the way McDaniel taught. Now, will that carry over? I really don't know. Is it a red flag that no other teams seem to view Mike McDaniel as a head coaching option? Yes, it is. Like,
wait. You said that no other teams don't view him this way?
As a head, like who else is it? I think the Titans.
I thought he had 4 interviews. Okay, maybe
I know he has a bunch of offensive coordinator interviews. Okay. Does he have other head coaching interviews?
I thought he did, but I'll double check. Go ahead.
Yeah, comments. Let me know if I'm wrong. Maybe I've missed stuff. But I think that when you're talking about culture, the classic way to think of culture, let's call it the Vrabel mold of what culture looks like, very much fits Saleh, and then maybe Shula, maybe Minter, maybe Halfley, these guys that we don't know about. And to the question of, there was somebody in the comment who asked How do we know about Saleh as a
Yeah,
culture guy?
lots of Jets commentary in the comments for sure.
I think that this is jumping the gun because we're going to talk about development later. But just to spoil, Saleh is going to be on the list of development too. There were a lot of very young players who came in and played very well early for those Jets teams. And it wasn't just the defensive guys. It wasn't just Sauce Gardner. Garrett Wilson came and was very productive early. There was a culture established that this is how we do things and this is how you get in line and perform. And those young guys, by and large, fit into what they wanted to do and made it work. And I know that conflating culture with success or conflating culture with talent is a bit of a fool's errand. But if you're comparing that to Nagy, whose greatest culture contribution in Chicago was that they would have dance parties or discos, Club Nagy or whatever it was, after wins in year one. If you're comparing it with,
well, like, so here, let me, like, Pete Carroll, we know, is like the chillest of most laid back player cultures you could possibly build, and some players flourish in that environment. Like Mike Vrabel, while there is no real like Junction Boys Bear Bryant anymore, like that doesn't exist in pro or college football. Mike Vrabel probably has the other end of the spectrum in terms of culture, and some players really flourish and love being in that type of culture. The problem, and I would put Saleh more in the Vrabel era end of the spectrum than I would. Agree. And I think we're not basing this off of the Jets locker room. We're basing this off of conversations with people who know Robert Saleh and experts who are around him and people who have been around him on the coaching side that have a lot of respect for how he treats people and his leadership and the psychology of knowing how to push and pull people. Here's the thing, though. If you have a culture that goes a little bit more onto that end of the spectrum, the more Vrabel end of the spectrum, there is going to be friction at the beginning. There's going to be people who don't like that type of leadership or culture. And a lot of times, especially if they're young, you're going to have to figure out how to either make it work, someone's going to have to adjust, or those players are out of there, right? And now, within reason, like you're not going to – Sauce Gardner, you're out of here. Garrett Wilson, you're out of here. Like that's not what it is. But you're going to have to churn the roster a little bit and find the people that like being in that culture.
Yeah, and to the people who are knocking Saleh for what happened in New York, again, we have to acknowledge that the New York Jets had a top 3 defense in 2022 and 2023. He got fired 5 games into 2024. The defense was playing very, very well. It was the offense that was lagging behind. It was not Robert Saleh who was running the offense. And so this goes back to CEO stuff. This goes back to hiring stuff.
Right.
But when we talk about culture, when we talk about instilling the things that you are good at instilling, that part worked. The offense did not work. The pursuit of Aaron Rodgers did not work. The drafting Zach Wilson and developing him did not work. All of this stuff that failed in New York failed. And we are not discounting that.
No.
But when
these guys are all fired for a reason.
Yeah. But when we're talking about traits, individual traits,
right,
I think it is fair to say that Saleh has 1 or 2 positives.
Who else is in this list for this category? Like Tomlin would be at the top of the list. Right?
Tomlin would absolutely be at the top of the list.
Right.
I'm looking down the list. Raheem Morris? I really don't know.
Yeah, I could see that.
Lou Anarumo?
I could see that. Do you want to expand? Jess asked about expanding on the Nagy disco comments. Do you want to expand on that real fast?
Just Google that.
Okay, all right.
Just watch the dance parties. They would celebrate wins in a very clever, fun way.
So Nash is saying what we're describing is not culture. Culture is a very vague and nebulous term. It just is. Leadership is a vague and nebulous term, and the greatest leaders are the ones that know how to motivate every individual in their own way. They're generally great listeners. They're people that know how to adapt to environments and situations. Like it's just a very difficult thing to do. And you can do it 1,000 different ways. Authenticity is a really important trait in all of this. I think Robert Saleh is very authentic. I think he is what he is. And I think there's lots of traits about who he is, his passion, his energy. I learned at a very young age, like one of the most important things my father taught me was transfer of enthusiasm. The more passionate you are about something, people pick up on that and they gravitate towards it. And I think he's clearly got a bunch of these different traits in spades. It doesn't mean that it worked for the Jets or that they had the right locker room or that he was given enough time or didn't make mistakes. All these guys have made mistakes. Clearly, they're fired. So
let me run through.
We're not discounting it. We're just,
Let me run through some words, some adjectives. I believe they're adjectives. Some might not be. That I have in my notes app here of qualities that I've just heard offhand might be important. Take it or leave it.
You're saying from the Titans' perspective?
From the Titans' perspective, from the culture building perspective. When you're looking for a coach, how do you identify
of the 450,000 words in your notes app? You're going to pull out a few.
Of my many, many notes app words. Is the coach arrogant? Is the coach coachable? Is the coach defensive? Is the coach open to feedback? Can the coach reach the players? Those are some of the things that I would say, look at some of those qualities. And if they answer in the positive, is this person arrogant? Yes. Probably not going to be a good culture fit.
Yeah. I think McCarthy has a big question mark in a lot of those categories, and minus the arrogance, actually.
Is this coach coachable? Is this coach going to not only do what he thinks is right, but also respond if he is confronted with something that isn't working?
Yeah.
I think that, as you said, culture is very nebulous. It's very difficult to define why culture works for some people and why culture doesn't work for other people. But
Nash BBQ really doesn't want Kevin Stefanski. We got it, man.
Everybody in the comments
doesn't like the culture. He doesn't like his CEO. He doesn't like anything about him.
We've got one more quality I think that we're going to talk through. So while we do this, everybody in the comments, give us your 2 or 3 top candidates overall. Everybody
overall, okay. Any idea what cultures are successful for the first-time coaches this year? Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson. I don't know if I'd call Kellen Moore super successful, but it came around in the end of the season there. But I think Cohen and Johnson start with really talented players already there, all over the roster, and a great scheme. I don't know about the cultures of those. I think Johnson has clearly built a culture people like. Players like to play for him, but all we see is the celebrations.
Yeah. And then
Ben Johnson also had a very huge reputation coming into the job as a very popular guy. Yeah. So
is our last quality like talent development?
No. I was going to do, so I got a few more here. We can go. Who are your next 2 on the list? Culture, leadership. Who else? Anybody else after Saleh, or just question marks?
A lot of question marks, but if forced to choose, I will go with Raheem Morris and.
Okay. That's fine. 2's fine. Yeah. In-game play calling, adjustments, sort of the Mike Vrabel of it all, like just knowing how to manage the game as it's unfolding. Play calling is an instinct, in my opinion. You got to have a feel for it. You got to know how to make adjustments at halftime, and you got to know how to manage the rules of the game, every single detail, down to the second and the inch.
It's funny because the looking down at my list, one of the coaches who I would have said would have been a no on this is John Harbaugh. It's a really tough skill.
Right, it is.
The more you coach in the NFL, the more we know your blind spots. We know Mike McCarthy's blind spots. We know John Harbaugh's blind spots. We know what have tripped them up over 18 years. So I really don't know for like in-game play calling. I do think McDaniel is a really good play caller. I think that goes hand in hand with scheme. I really like the way Minter calls a defense. I think that is fun to watch.
Yeah.
I think Arthur Smith is.
I like Arthur Smith at this too. Yeah.
I think that especially with the proximity to Vrabel, if you're saying that
we did not mention this, but I should with both scheme and in game. I think Chris Shula is very good in this category.
Sure.
They rebuilt that entire defense after losing Aaron Donald, and it's pretty darn good. So. They've brought players in and released players that are pretty talented over the last few years, and they're right there as a favorite on the road against the Bears this weekend. So keep going.
I'm trying to go through my list real quick. I think that probably Stefanski was, if I have a 4th, he was the one that was going to be on the bubble right there.
Okay. How about this one? This is. Do you want to do talent evaluation and development?
Yeah, that's a really, really tricky one. As I alluded to, I think Saleh is very good defensively at talent identification and development.
Shula as well.
Shula as well. I think you look at some of those San Francisco teams, it's not as if Fred Warner was a first-round pick. It's not as if a lot of these defensive players that have become superstars in the San Francisco model were guys who were picked in the top 10. And then if you look at the way he developed those defenses in New York, as I mentioned, I'm very impressed by that. After that, I do think that Mike McDaniel's players got better.
All of them, almost all of them.
I think on offense, they generally got better. I think that here's one I'll give you with Stefanski, because I know Nash is just waiting to jump on this. How about this for the picks for Kevin Stefanski and the Browns as the head coach? First round pick Jared Willis in 2020, 10th overall pick, not playing. They did get Grant Delpit, Jordan Elliott, Jacob Phillips, a few other nice pieces there. Greg Newsome was a cornerback they drafted in 2021 in the first round with the 26th overall pick. Jeremiah Owusu was a really, really good. He's been a good player for them. Martin Emerson, Alex Wright, David Bell were their third round picks in 2022. Cedric Tillman, pretty good evaluation there. Point is that there's not like they don't have a bunch of. Mason Graham was their fifth overall pick last year. They have not had a first round pick in 3 seasons. So obviously that's the Deshaun Watson trade. So I don't know. I could poke a hole in some of the drafting, but like again, the Browns' defensive talent was so good, and they've been pretty. I mean, like Harold Finn and Cedric Tillman are starters on this team. They've Quidshot Junkins. There's some good offensive pieces that they've acquired the last couple of years. Yeah, I mean, when you look at failed head coaches, we're going to look at them and say, oh, their teams failed because their players weren't very good. So like Arthur Smith, knock on him of development. None of those Falcons players really superstar developed.
Yeah,
it's really tricky. All of these guys are available for a reason.
Yep. Yes, they are. So last one is totally selfish and just for the fun of it, because it was such a dichotomy of styles between Vrabel and Callahan. And that is your communication skills with the press and just generally with the fans and outwardly to sort of the community and the group. I think all these guys know how to answer questions. Some are more standoffish than others. Some are more approachable. Some will give more thoughtful answers. Any personal preferences in this category?
It's a tricky, selfish, unselfish thing. I think Arthur Smith would be the best PR hire ultimately.
I agree.
Tricky for me because I'm one of the few people on the Titans beat who does not know Arthur personally. So that would actually make my job harder, not easier. But the offensive mind, the connection to success in Nashville, the ability to communicate, the affability, likability, I do think that Arthur is a very smart PR hire there. I think that if you are trying to appeal to purely we just got a guy here who's going to make Cam better, that's where Stefanski and McDaniel become the guys you talk about. And one name that we have not mentioned at all, because I still don't think he's going to interview for this job, but Kingsbury, I think, would also be in that camp of the could make Cam better. I don't know if it's a good PR hire, but the could make Cam better would be an easier PR sell. And then Minter, Shula, just trying to buy high on somebody who's up and coming could be a good PR hire.
So McCarthy, Nagy, Minter, CEOs. McDaniel, Dayball, Saleh with building a staff. McDaniel, McCarthy, Saleh with a little bit of Joseph on scheme and game plan, mixed with Jesse Minter for in-game adjustments and game planning there. Saleh it seems like is the only real option if you're focused on culture and leadership. Talent development, we've talked about McDaniel as well. You're starting to see the names that are in the top 2 or 3 in each of these categories. So we're going to have a second round of interviews next week. I doubt they make a decision in the next few days. A few of these guys are going to be losing this weekend and have a chance to then go in depth in the interview process. I have 4 names that I think are guaranteed to be in the finalist lists. And then I have 3 guys that I think they're going to choose probably 1 or 2 from. Do you have a guarantee? Who are the names that you guarantee will be getting second interviews and be a part of the next round of finalists?
Yeah, assuming that one of them is not hired out from underneath the Titans. My list of guarantees would be McCarthy, Nagy, Stefanski.
No McDaniel?
I do not put him in the guarantee. I put it in the likely, but I do not put him in the guarantee.
So here's the 4 I had: Nagy, Stefanski, McCarthy, and McDaniel. Those are the 4 that I have as next round. And then I think it is a combination of Shula, Hafley, and Minter. I think one of those, if maybe two of those, make it to the finals. Maybe all three of them make it to the finals. And who am I missing?
I would say Shula. Let's pump the brakes on, given that he does not even have a known interview on the docket yet. It may come. There's a difference between requested and scheduled, and
That's true.
have not heard anything about scheduling there. I would say Saleh is in the likely camp for me. As I mentioned, McDaniel is in the likely camp. Arthur Smith is in the above average to likely camp. And then the haven't crossed them off list is Vance Joseph. And
okay. I should have written. I did not write Saleh down. I have Saleh in the likely category as well. So Nagy, my list would be Nagy, McDaniel, Stefanski, McCarthy, Saleh, Smith, and then I think it's Halfley or Minter. I think if I had to pick, I do not think Halfley is the right guy for the job. I've made that clear. I think Minter could be tons of defensive coordinating experience, more than people think.
Yeah.
All right. So we expect those second interviews to probably start matriculating next week. I don't think this is going to be as fast as it happens. I think once they get through the second round of interviews, whether that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, I do think then it could go fast after that, because you got at that point, you are competing with 7 other jobs or 8 other jobs.
Yeah.
All of whom have not yet done anything
and
after Harbaugh.
While we are here, you want to do a rapid speed geek corner about some of these candidates, since we talked about so many retreads. I wrote this on the Tennessean this morning. You guys can check this out. But I tried to find in the last 20 years teams that have been in similar or as similar situations.
Right, how about this, Nick? Just you're breaking up on us right now. I don't know if that's happening for everybody listening, right, but it's happening for us.
Right, a lot of recent hires and firings at coach and GM, young head coach, young quarterback, former hire. I don't know that I'm breaking up. What's going on?
No, nobody can hear anything you're saying. So give me a second. Give me a second. Let your thing buffer. Maybe refresh the screen, and I will. I'll do the ad right here for Sinkers Beverages. So yeah, Verizon Internet. That's right. Beverages, everybody. 5-time liquor store of the year, walk-in beer fridge of the year. You guys know I've done the documentary about beer in this city. Craft beer in this city. It's called Mashville with an M. Go check it out. It's a great story. I had a ton of fun working on it. It was very hard, very fulfilling, but it's all about local beer. And where can you buy all of that local beer? You can buy it in an award-winning craft beer walk-in fridge at Sinkers Beverages. So make sure you go check them out. They got all your needs. They got expertise in wine and bourbon and tequila. They have all kinds of wonderful and amazing things that you can have on the weekend. And if you've already had a few, obviously, don't get in your car. Just search Uber Eats and have that booze delivered directly to your house. Sign up for the In Crowd. The In Crowd is a fantastic customer appreciation group. They do not mess with you. They do not spam you. You're not going to get blown up via text or email. They're going to give you really cool opportunities for cool stuff every now and then. So there you go. All right, Sinkers Beverages, everybody. Nixa, start again, my man.
I was just going to do it. Is this better? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, little miniature geek corner. Let's go.
Little quick geek corner. I found 5 examples in the last 20 years or so of teams that have been as close to the Titans' current predicament as possible, meaning multiple head coach and GM firings in a 5 or 6 year period, young quarterback first-round pick in year 2 or year 3, looking to hire a retread, not looking to hire a first-time head coach. The examples that I found, varying degrees of success. The 2011 Denver Broncos, 3 GMs in 5 years. Josh McDaniels flamed out in 2 years. Tim Tebow was heading into year 2. They hired John Fox. Incredibly successful period. Tim Tebow did not work out. Probably not what you want if you're the Titans, but if you can get to the Super Bowl and all that stuff, good.
Yeah, sure.
2012 St. Louis Rams, back-to-back failed first-time head coaches, 3rd GM in 5 years. Sam Bradford heading into year 3. They hired Jeff Fisher. Did not work out. No playoff appearances under Fisher. Bradford did not become a superstar. 2019 New York Jets, 3 GMs in 6 years. Todd Bowles flamed out. Sam Darnold was heading into year 2. They hired Adam Gase.
Ew.
Did not work out, flamed out within 2 years. And then the 2 more recent examples that I'm sure people are familiar with. the 2022 Jacksonville Jaguars, coming off of the failed Urban Meyer experiment, hire Doug Peterson to stabilize with Trevor Lawrence heading into year 2. And then this year with the New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel coming in to stabilize as their third coach in 3 years with some front office shuffling and Drake May taking over as head coach. The one good thing that I will say before everybody starts barfing in their mouth a little bit, all 5 of these coaches in question won at least 7 games in year 1. In all 5 of these instances.
That's the best you got?
Most of them didn't get a year 3. So year 1, when you're starting, this is a stabilizing move. If the Titans go out and hire a coach with head coaching experience,
I get you.
It is likely to be a quicker turnaround. It is likely to be, we used the phrase adult in the room in the comments. The effect of bringing the adult in the room is that there is going to be a stabilizing presence. Now,
you got to build the first floor of the house before you can build the second and third floor. Yeah, I got you.
How much do we blame Jeff Fisher for Sam Bradford? How much do we blame Adam Gase for Sam Darnold? Those are totally different conversations. But there have been, I think it was 41 retread hires in the NFL in the last 20 years, and 66% of them had losing records as retreads.
Yeah.
Like, hiring a coach who's done it before, usually not a great track record for oh, heck yeah, we're going to win now. You're usually hiring somebody because you just need stability. You need somebody who's going to come in and make you stop free falling. And so if the Titans can hire one of these guys and win 7 games this year, which is what Robert Saleh was known for doing in New York, which is what Arthur Smith was known for doing in Atlanta, if you can have somebody come in and take you to 7-10, there's a new floor in place.
That's true. What the what the Giants just did with hiring Harbaugh, and I did not realize this, that I believe it's only the second time that a team with 13 losses has hired a coach with a Super Bowl ring. And if the Titans were to hire Mike McCarthy, it would become the third time it's ever happened. The only other time was the one you just mentioned, which was Jacksonville being awful and then hiring Doug Peterson. And so I don't know, that one didn't necessarily work out, but what Jacksonville did and what the Giants are doing is very rare in the NFL. And this would be, if they were to go with McCarthy, would be another example of how rare it is to be that bad and to be able to hire a Super Bowl winner. Now, there's some extenuating circumstances involved in McCarthy's resume, obviously, but
trivia for you guys. True or false? The Titans have never hired a head coach with a championship.
Like an NFL championship?
With a championship, with a professional sports.
Who's got a ring in another sport? Is that what you're doing?
No. A pro football championship.
Go ahead.
Sid Gilman, AFL champion. Oilers hired him in 1973.
Here we go. Let's see here. Of note, a head coach has never won a Super Bowl with 2 teams.
Correct.
Is that true?
Oh, no head coach has ever won a Super Bowl with multiple.
And there's only a handful that have won both the NFL, the national championship, and the Super Bowl.
Correct.
And one was just fired from the Raiders. Pete Carroll. All right. So Jason asks, is Brian Daboll a more interesting candidate than the conversation would indicate, or are they just looking at potential OC? This is the thing with Nagy. I don't think Nagy would come to be an OC. I think Daboll would. Nagy's already gone through the rehab process, right? Once you go through the rehab process, that's why I think McDaniel could be an OC, because your first year out of being a head coach, that's the most likely chance you get to get somebody to be a coordinator that's clearly got head coaching chops. So Stefanski, I don't know that one. I don't know if he's going to go down and be a coordinator. I cannot see Matt Nagy leaving Kansas City to be an OC here. That doesn't make any sense to me.
There's so many things that are purely just PR conversation points right now. The young coaches who have failed less look better because they've failed less. The older coaches who have failed more look bad because they have failed more. Anyone who's sitting here and saying it is clear that Coach A, who has never coached before, is a better candidate just because they've never seen him struggle with the New York Jets, or just because they've never seen him struggle with the Atlanta Falcons, is just falling for the trap of thinking that won't happen to somebody who it's never happened before too. And the same thing happens with some of these retreads who were really, really good offensive coordinators, really, really good defensive coordinators. Jonathan Gannon, if he's your defensive coordinator, cool. Brian Daboll, if he's your offensive coordinator, cool.
I really like head coaches that have just been fired who are pissed off and want to earn it back and become your coordinator. There's a good track record of success with those guys.
And yeah,
because they're getting back to their thing that they love and we're great at.
And to Matt's point, Nagy will be a free agent. So it's not so much he could return to Kansas City, but I do believe his contract is expiring.
I mean, if they don't want him, that's one thing. But if you're Nagy and you're going to be a coordinator and you can be the Chiefs coordinator, wouldn't you rather be the Chiefs coordinator than anybody else?
For sure. Okay. Especially because him and Andy Reid are best buds.
Right. Okay. Quickly here. Let's Sinkers Beverages, everybody. Sign up for good journalism at the Tennessean. Let's go quickly here with some rapid fire questions about what's going on. Dante Moore headed back to Oregon, gave up what could have been a $50 million number 2 in the draft kind of slot, and had he gone through this process, could have overtaken Mendoza as the number 1 player in the draft. What do you make of that, and how does it affect the Titans at number 4? It just moves everybody up one more spot that are not quarterbacks.
Yeah, unless Ty Simpson or one of these other quarterbacks has a gigantic ascent up into the top 5. Pretty much what this does is it makes it harder for the Titans to get the best non-quarterback on the board. I have a feeling that as we get deeper and deeper into draft prep, I am going to be the downer who is not high on Arvell Reese. So
he is 3rd on my list of edge players now. He's moved behind Bailey and Bain for me.
So if that just means Reese goes before the Titans can pick him, I will say bullet dodged.
Yeah, but I agree with that.
You never know. And
I like players where you've seen them do the thing you're drafting them to do.
Yeah. For every Josh Allen, for every Micah Parsons, there are a dozen Barkevius Mingos. Like, you're going to have a lot of prospects who, oh man, we can project that when he gets to the pros, he's going to be able to do way more. And he doesn't. So,
the other thing is I think Jordan Tyson could be the best receiver in the class. I think Mekhi Lemon is my number 1 receiver in the class out of USC. Carnell Tate is a very good player. I don't know if any of those 3 are worth it at number 4. If you're trading down to 8 and you can get one of those receivers, great, go for it. If you're going to 9 or 10 or 12, take one of those receivers. Jermon McCoy might be a top 5 player, and he might be worth it, but the injury issues are a concern there. If you can trade down and get him, that's great. Bailey, and I think there's going to be questions about Bain that no one's talking about yet, so I'll throw that nugget into the show at the 1 hour and 3 minute mark. There's going to be teams that do not have him on their board. I'm just going to say that right now before anything else comes out about Ruben Bain. But we'll see what happens on Monday night. Really, really good player. I don't know if he fits the Titans' needs as much as David Bailey, who for my money is the best off-the-edge rusher. And he played well against the run down the stretch. I would take Bailey over Bain and Reese right now. So lots of Jeremiah Love talk. I think the Titans fans, and I wrote this for PK.com. I don't know if it's out today or tomorrow, but Mekhi Lemon is my number 1 receiver. Bailey is the edge rusher I would take. And the third thing I think I know, Nick, about the draft is that Titans fans need to be okay with and prepared for considering Jeremiah Love or Kenyon Sadiq. The number 1 tight end and the number 1 running back. Those are 2 players that make your offense better, that help Cam Ward, that don't necessarily fill a clear position of need, but are really, really great players. And you can't reach for someone just because it's a position of need. You got to take the best possible player. So if you're picking at 8 and one of those 2 guys is there and all your best options at the other positions are gone, just be prepared for Jeremiah Love or Kenyon Sadiq to be real options for this team because they are great players that make Cam Ward's life better. So.
If you guys, and one more draft note before we talk about real football games, if you guys are team trade back, get familiar with the name Francis Mauigoa.
That is Monday night for
that is the guy that you do not want to be picked 2nd or 3rd if you want to trade back if you're the Titans. You want him still on the board. You want the number 1 tackle and the number 2 tackle, him and Spencer Fanu. Fanu. You want both of them still on the board. And
at 4, you're saying?
At 4.
Yeah.
You want those tackles still around. You want people to want to move up for tackles.
Yeah.
There is so much edge depth. I don't think people are going to move up for David Bailey.
No, I think you can get Bailey at 8. I would love to get Bailey at 8.
So those are the things. I think that's the position people would move up for, other than quarterback, obviously.
I think both those tackles will be there at 4. I think
there's a chance Arizona could go tackle at 3. You never know.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Either way, I think it's going to be interesting. Okay, quickly here. Buffalo at Denver. Denver minus 1.5. Who you got?
Buffalo.
If it's a close game, I'm taking the Bills. San Francisco at Seattle. Seattle a 7-point favorite in this game.
I'm taking Seattle because of San Francisco's continuing injury issues, but I do think this will be a little bit closer than the line.
Incredibly impressive jobs Shanahan and Saleh and those guys have done to get them through Philadelphia with all the injuries that they have. And I think we're setting up a rematch of the best football game that we've had all season, college or pro, and that was the Thursday night Rams-Seahawks game from a couple of weeks ago. Houston at New England. I got the Texans going on the road, baby, and spoiling former coach Mike. They're going to take down Drake May. The one thing that can stop Drake May, that Houston Texans defense.
I am so torn, so split on this. I think Houston is playing its best football. I think New England is playing its best football.
Yeah.
I will take New England purely on the Mike Vrabel in the playoffs against a Houston organization that has tended to not be very good in this round of the playoffs.
No, but man, they got after Aaron Rodgers last week. That's for sure.
They really did. They really did.
Rams at the Bears. My entire family are now lifelong diehard Rams fans, and my children are required to watch this game in blue and gold on Sunday evening. Go Rams. I cannot pick the other team that will remain nameless.
As I said last week, Shamrock up his ass. Let's go Bears. Bears win.
I want Rams and Seahawks in the NFC Championship game, and Bills Patriots would be good, but it just feels so kind of Northeast gross. Like I want to see Houston get there, and I'd love to see Houston up against like Houston and Denver defensively would be a spectacular matchup. Houston versus Josh Allen would be a really fun thing, even though we've seen them shut down all the quarterbacks this year, including Allen and Mahomes and some other guys. So either way, I think we're in for a good matchup as long as it's not Niners Bears. Like that's kind of gross.
I'll have to find the text that I sent in like early October where I said it's going to be a real bummer when the Bears lose the NFC Championship 31-3. Like they are going to magic their way to the point where they have gotten as far as magic will let them go. And I think they can, especially against a Rams team that looked awfully susceptible to magic last week with Bryce Young. Now they're playing Bryce Young, but better. So I will give it to the Bears there.
Yeah, the Bears still suck. Okay. Indiana, do they finish the deal on Monday night? Does Miami, with their physicality and their defensive line and Mark Fletcher running through faces, like, do they actually, like, does Miami play the we're at home, where us against the world, the you against everyone? Is that a thing that works, or does Indiana just continue to juggernaut its way to one of the great seasons and the great stories ever told in college football history?
I know a lot of really, really smart football people who are picking Miami straight up in this game.
I don't like that.
And when I ask them, well, why are you picking Miami straight up in this game? It usually comes down to, well, yeah, the way they play, they can control the ball. They have that really good defensive front. They do all of these things really well. They're playing their best football right now. I really like what I've seen from them these last couple of games against A&M and against Ohio State and against Ole Miss.
But Carson Beck, Nick.
And then my response is, well, what do you think about the last 3 games Indiana's played? Right. And then they're like, oh, yeah, clearly the best team in the country. They win absolutely everything. They do anything they want. They're in control. They made Alabama look weak. They made Oregon look weak. So I'm like, so why do you like Miami in this game? And they're like, defensive line? I don't know.
So like, if we had not just seen Ole Miss actually nullify the Miami Hurricanes defensive line by using the quick passing attack and the one read and go offense, I would feel differently about this. But Indiana runs the same thing. They run the same thing. Lots of RPOs, lots of quick passes, lots of one read for Fernando Mendoza and throw. Fernando Mendoza, like listening to Greg McElroy on Friday night talk about how Fernando Mendoza knows everything there is to know about scheme. And like, I love Mendoza, but he does not read defenses very fast. Like he's a one read quarterback. He's going to have to learn progressions on the next level. Dante Moore, way better at going through his progressions than Fernando Mendoza is. It's a very fast, simple offense. The beauty of Indiana is is they do everything perfectly. Every player does everything right, and they're prepared for every situation.
Here's my theory, and this is more of a college football problem than an NFL problem, but I do think it applies to both. Caveman brain for football fans. We tend to give the benefit of the doubt to ball control offenses that they're going to be able to do what they want to do much more than we give the benefit of the doubt to quick strike offenses.
Yeah.
If we see a team that wins with explosive plays, we're going to be like,
can you do it against this defense?
Can you work? But if you see a team that runs long series, you immediately think, oh, well, they'll be able to do that. They just exert their will. They're physical. But Miami's playing a defense in Indiana that is much better than Miami's offense. So just because they like to have long possessions doesn't mean they will be able to stay ahead of schedule against a defense that is significantly better. The Indiana offense versus Miami defense matchup,
very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
The Miami offense versus Indiana defense, pretty significant mismatch. And people are giving so much credit to Mark Fletcher because he's going to try and
he's so good though.
People. He's very fun. It is so cool watching them do this. Indiana's defense is a totally different beast.
Ohio State, Alabama, and Oregon. Granted, Alabama terrible at running the football. But those three teams, two of the best rushing teams in the country, and Alabama. 69 carries, 174 yards, 2.5 yards to carry, 1 touchdown in 3 straight games. That is totally shutting down very talented offenses to almost nothing on the ground and turning them into one-dimensional teams. And you know what happened to Julian Sain when he was one-dimensional? Made mistakes. Couldn't do the job. You know what happens to Dante Moore when he's one-dimensional and being attacked off the edge with pressure? Makes mistakes, can't get the job done. Carson Beck has never, ever handled that situation other than, like, I guess the fourth quarter against Ole Miss. And Ole Miss wasn't a team that gets after you the way Indiana does. So I'm taking Indiana, but, like, I just hope it's a great game. I think it will be a very good game. And Indiana has shown us they can win those close games. So
Indiana to cover.
Oh, lay the points. Okay. All right. Thank you guys all for being in the comments. You guys were awesome today. Very active out over there. I do appreciate it. So please tell somebody that this show on Thursdays with Nick Suss is pretty awesome. We do appreciate you guys for showing up.
I'm hearing some say it's a guilty pleasure.
It's a guilty pleasure. Many people are talking about it. Make sure you go. Make sure you enjoy the weekend too. By the way, you got great football. You got all kinds of stuff going on the football field. You got the college national championship game. You got the coaching searches. So just, stay tuned. We got a lot more coverage. As I mentioned, we got lots of college football coverage around the national championship game on the YouTube page. So subscribe, please, and listen to all the other great shows across the network. Make sure you pay for good journalism, Tennessean.com. And other than that, I think that's about it. All right, Nick?
Yeah.
Sinkers Beverages. Nick Suss. I'm Braden. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.